SJR011, first substitute SJR011, Joint Resolution on Environmental and Developmental Policies, Senator Weiler. The House sponsor is Representative Roberts. This bill was heard in Economic Development with a vote of 6-3 and 2.
Representative Roberts.
Representatives, Agenda 21 is a soft law resolution that was conceived by the United Nations during the 1992 Earth Summit. The summit convened under the premise that the human population's impact on the planet is unsustainable for the global environment. The solution offered by Agenda 21 is to implement smart growth practices in local governments across the globe. It was signed by President H.W. Bush. Soon after, and the following year, President Clinton established the President's Council on Sustainable Development to implement its ideas. The ultimate goal of the agenda is to draw people out of rural areas and condense populations into cities, allowing deserted environments to return to nature. To accomplish this, it proposes raising gas prices, manipulating transportation patterns, and forbidding human access to uninhabited land. This would make living in rural areas very difficult and force people into the cities. As farms and small towns become deserted, it will become easier and easier for government to seize private property and further block off human access in the name of promoting biodiversity. Agenda 21 also proposes reducing the population by establishing limits on the number of children in each family. This joint resolution of the legislature rejects United Nations Agenda 21 and urges state and local governments across the nation to reject it. Yes, I'm done.
Thank you, Representative Roberts. To the bill, Representative Powell.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I'm happy for the opportunity to speak just a little bit on this resolution. You know, in general, I just don't like resolutions. I don't like resolutions because they don't tell us what we should do as a legislature. They don't tell us what we're actually passing. They don't give us anything that we are specifically accomplishing, and unfortunately, a lot of times they just end up giving us a lot of argument and debate, which I'll try to make brief. I've noticed that on lines 36, 37, 38, 39 of this bill, it refers to the International Council of Local Environmental Initiatives and its sustainable development policies. Now, I just looked up on the website of the International Council of Local Environmental Initiatives to see who the members are around the country and especially here in Utah. It looks to me like currently on that website, those who are listed are members are in Utah are the cities of Park City, Salt Lake City, and Summit County. Now, I understand that that's not a large representation in Utah, but I think the problem with making broad statements such as this resolution that everybody in Utah should be opposed to Agenda 21, and basically I think the message of the resolution here is that there's nothing good in Agenda 21. Well, Agenda 21 does talk about sustainable development, and it did originally have the support of a Republican president, President Bush. So I don't think it's true that there's nothing good in Agenda 21. In fact, I went to a presentation on Agenda 21 that lasted about nearly 2 hours, sometime within the past 8 or 9 months or so. And the speaker who was speaking about Agenda 21 was advocating that planning commissions are an idea under Agenda 21 and that planning commissions should not exist and should be abolished. So I just like to think that we're usually somewhere finding a balance in public policy. this resolution appears to say that we are going to swing to one extreme, that we are not going to look at opposing diverse points of view. I think that's what the resolution says. It's always hard to know exactly what a resolution says or what it does. And, you know, with the cities and the counties in Utah that have adopted the International Council of Local Environmental Initiatives recommendations and become members, I would suggest that probably in Utah there's not a great danger that there are many other cities, or certainly this legislature, that are going to be following any actual statutes or ordinances that pursue Agenda 21. And therefore, maybe the answer is we need a little more Agenda 21 in Utah, because since we have progressed so far towards anti-sustainable development policies, it's always good to have a little bit of a counterbalance. And so I'd like to at least have a few citizens and entities in Utah that are willing to at least look at something like an Agenda 21 or sustainable development policies and not vilify them. And so for that reason, I won't be supporting the resolution. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative. Further discussion. Representative Edwards.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Will the sponsor yield?
Representative Roberts, will you yield?
Yes.
Go ahead.
I see language on line 81 through 84 that talks about, I'll just quote it, "Be it further resolved that the legislature urges state and local governments to not enter into any agreement, expend any sum of money, contract services, or give financial aid to those non-governmental and intergovernmental organizations affiliated with Agenda 21. And it makes me wonder what the implications of that are for the three entities in our state, Salt Lake City, Park City, and Summit County, that do have relationships with the International Council of Local Environmental Initiatives, that they're making a link, I guess, with Agenda 21 on line 38.
If I understand the question correctly, are you asking that what the implications are to Park City, Heber, and Salt Lake County? Salt Lake City. I don't know that I can say what the implications are. I would say that this is nothing more than a warning to them to be cautious in their proceedings.
If I may, Madam Speaker, it also appears to be a warning for anyone who may be considering entering into an agreement or a contract with those entities. And I have some concern about the impact on those three organizations. I do appreciate the inclusion of lines 59 through 64, as well as 89 through 91, that talk about Utah's commitment to local cities, counties, and towns creating and controlling cooperative decision-making in terms of planning and regional planning efforts. And I think that speaks to some of the innovations and long-term planning that go into organizations like Wasatch Front Regional Council, Envision Utah, and others. So I appreciate that, and just have concerns about the direction that this bill takes in terms of removing a piece of that local control from the rest of the entities in the state, even though it is seen and being spoken to right now as a warning. I think the language in the bill goes further than a warning and uses stronger language than that. And that concludes my remark. Thanks.
Further discussion. Representative Hemingway.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I almost don't know what to say. The other day in our committee, we heard this bill, and we jokingly back and forth called it the aluminum hat bill. But The thing that this resolution seems to rail on a little bit are two things: sustainability, and then we got into the distribution of wealth and how harmful that is. Immediately following this this hearing on this bill, we had a bill introduced, and I was trying to look up the number of it, and I'm sorry I can't find it, but it had to do with economic development, and it had to do with new businesses coming to the state, and that GOED wanted permission to work with these people on tax breaks because they were bringing business to Utah that were sustainable. They were bringing business to Utah that were high-paying jobs and spread that money around a little bit. This seems to go against what we in the state are trying to do here, and that is to bring sustainable business so that our people can work, so that there is a distribution of wealth, and try to be involved in environmental issues that are going to do a number of things, not only in rural Utah, but here in the valley, where we have a hard time breathing for 1 month out of the year. So I am speaking against this resolution just because it feels like to me it goes against everything that we here in Utah stand for. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative. Representative Ivory.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. It may seem or sound convenient to joke and laugh and Twitter at what is being proposed under their own documents. I read from the Agenda 21 document. This is the document that was passed at the conference in Rio establishing Agenda 21. In section 7.28, it says that the objective, and this is under the heading of promoting sustainable land use planning and management. So this is what sustainable land use management and planning is defined as in the Agenda 21's own document. It says, and I read, the objective is to provide for the land requirements of human settlement development through environmentally sound physical planning and land use so as to ensure access to the land to all households and the encouragement of communally and collectively owned and managed land. Particular attention should be paid to the needs of women and indigenous people for economic and cultural reasons. So in their own document, laugh if you will, make jokes if you will, but those who are pushing forward the Agenda 21 in their own stated language, in their objective, say that their objective is the encouragement of communally and collectively owned and managed land. I would speak very strenuously that that is not a Utah value, and I encourage your support of this resolution.
Seeing no further lights, Representative Roberts for summation.
Thank you. I just conclude by saying that other states, Governor Rick Scott in Florida, and the legislature repealed its 25-year-old smart growth law. Governor Mitt Romney allowed this anti-Agenda 21 plank into the GOP national platform in 2012. States like Alabama and Tennessee are taking action on bills where this is a resolution to make sure Agenda 21 is not implemented in their states. The resolution is about protecting private property rights and due process. And just like to wrap up by thanking the Tin Hat Committee for joining us, and please vote yes.
Thank you, Representative. Voting is open on first substitute Senate, first substitute SJR011. Representative Ibsen, Representative Hughes. Representative Cunningham. Seeing all present having voted, voting will be closed. First substitute, SJR011, having received 44 yes votes and 28 no votes, passes. The House will be returned to the Senate for further consideration.